Many organizations have been doing important, innovative work in their local healthcare environments to try to alleviate and solve problems related to bias and discrimination in medicine. One factor that limits diversity in the healthcare workforce is low recruitment and retention of students from historically excluded groups. I'm Stephen Morrissey, managing editor of the New England Journal of Medicine, and I'm talking with Revati Masilamani, an assistant professor of medical education at Tufts University School of Medicine. Dr. Masilamani has co-authored a perspective article about establishing a multi-tiered mentoring program to support pathways to biomedical careers as part of the journal's series of brief case studies of anti-discrimination initiatives. Dr. Masilamani, could you start by describing this issue of low recruitment and retention? What's known about rates of recruitment and retention of students from historically excluded groups, and then their effects on the diversity of the healthcare workforce as a whole?
As we know, what ends up happening is that the medical school and biomedical education pipeline has many places in it where students fall out of that pipeline. And what we know is that while diversity is an issue at entry points of that pipeline, retention is a challenge that keeps making that pool of individuals less and less diverse. And this is something that medical schools across the country, biomedical research institutions have been struggling with. And so it becomes really of paramount importance to imagine and create programs that can help broaden access at the entry point to those pipelines, but also at key career transition points where we know that students, where they lack support or feel like they don't belong, will end up leaving those careers. And what we're trying to do with our program is really addressing those issues.
So first off, how did your institution, Tufts, decide that it wanted to prioritize this problem?
So I think what happened was that two major groups at the university, the Center for Science Education and the Office of Multicultural Affairs at the Tufts School of Medicine, had been independently working for decades on this issue in local communities, which is high schools in Boston, high-need school districts, establishing connections and trusting relationships with teacher partners, working with them to create opportunities and curricula that would help students in classrooms gain a better appreciation and access to biomedical science, to careers in biomedicine, and really to feel like they belonged. And this work over decades really showed us where there were places that there were need and ways to plug those needs or gaps, so to speak. So something that our teacher partners really wanted was a pathways program that would help the students that had been working on curriculum that our groups had created to then come into a campus experience where they could experience a residential component of being together with students and learning together, as well as access to opportunities that would allow them a way to envisage themselves in those spaces. And so that really was the incentive to create these programs. And then our two groups, the Center for Science Education, where I belong in the Office for Multicultural Affairs, decided to come together to create this program, STEM plus M Connect.
And in your perspective article, you describe what you call a multi-tiered near-peer mentoring program that Tufts created. What are the primary components of the program, and how were they designed to enhance recruitment and retention?
So our program, we describe it as a multi-tiered near-peer mentoring program because it really is multiple layers of mentors and opportunities for mentees. So I'll describe the program structure and then the intent behind the different layers of the program. So the structure of the program involves two cohorts, which is undergraduate mentors who are students at Tufts, who are really eager for research experiences. As we know, research experiences are a linchpin to opening up experiences in biomedicine and retention. So these undergraduate students come into the program and they get a research experience at labs at Tufts, clinical labs as well as basic research labs, at the same time as they are serving as mentors for high school students coming into the program. Our high school students are coming in to really enjoy a month-long summer experience where they get together with a cohort of students from diverse backgrounds, experiencing biomedicine and medical school in a residential format. So our students are being mentored by the undergraduate mentors, and then the undergraduate mentors are receiving mentorship from their lab, the PIs in the lab, the principal investigators in the labs they go to, as well as graduate students and senior postdocs under whom they actually work through an 8-week long summer research experience. And so this is the multi-tiered mentoring structure that we're talking about. And what ends up happening is that when the program ends for both groups, so for the undergraduates, it's 8 weeks, for the high school students, it's a month, we go on to continue to build those connections and those networks with alumni events, with social media, LinkedIn networking. And really what we see is that students come back for these events. They want to share their experiences. The older students want to share back with the younger students about what it was like applying to college, what experiences have they had since then. They reach out to us for letters of recommendation. They really build a very strong network, both within the cohort, across levels with the high school students and the undergrads, but then also beyond with the staff, with the faculty at Tufts. And so it becomes a very thriving, robust network that they can then leverage as they go on in their careers.
And what strategies have you used to bring students into the program at both high school and undergraduate levels?
That's a great question. So something that we focused on very early on when we began programming was really the recruitment strategies and focuses. So with the undergrads, we partner with the Center for STEM Diversity at Tufts, which is a great center that really is focusing on bringing in students from backgrounds historically excluded in STEM and medicine into opportunities and careers that they might be looking for. So we partner with the Center for STEM Diversity. We interview applicants. And what we're really looking for is students who are enthused and engaged in both research as well as in teaching. And they may not have had a research experience. In fact, we're actually really looking to give students who have not had a prior research experience that opportunity. But what we do like to see is evidence that they have had past experiences mentoring or teaching and that they care about that deeply. And so, in as much as they will receive a great research experience, that they want to give back to someone younger than them who is trying to walk that same path. So that's how we get our undergrad mentors. And then for the high school student, the mentees that we're recruiting, what we do is really the longstanding partnerships that both the Office of Multicultural Affairs and the Center for Science Education have developed with teacher partners from high-need school districts across the Boston area, getting them to spread the word about our program so that their students can apply. And then we're really looking for students, again, who have had an interest in biomedical experiences, but may not have really had many prior experiences before this, but also students who have the maturity to make the most of this experience. And for us, that is not necessarily grades. It is more, if someone's held down a summer job and has shown that kind of consistency and drive, then that is someone that we think is ready for this moment and would really take the most out of this opportunity.
So what challenges have you encountered in creating and then running this program?
So as with any program that is multi-layered, you really need support from a large infrastructural base. And so within Tufts, when we first started, folks didn't really know about this program. But over the years, one thing that we've actively done is tried to get institutional buy-in, and having 2 or 3 centers at Tufts really being part of this in a large way has really helped with that. We are constantly seeking support from research labs across the institution to really be hosting grounds for our undergraduate mentors. So finding labs that are eager to support this, that have the personnel in place to dedicate a senior mentor to an undergraduate for the summer, and to support this idea of undergraduates who will be performing research in the lab, but also spending some time mentoring high school students. So that has been a challenge. And over time, we've really found partners who want to do this and who are willing partners year after year. So it's a great way to know that the undergraduates that we recruit will find a supportive home base. And then on the other hand, it's funds. Like that really is the key thing, is how do we have sustained funding over time? And so again, having institutional buy-in has been a huge part of that. And so At this moment, we have funds from Tufts, we have an NIH grant from the SEPA mechanism, and we have philanthropic money that helps supports stipends for our students, high school students, as well as undergraduate mentors, as well as honoraria for our speakers, the staff that support the program, some of their salary. So these are things that we've been actively trying to create a foundation for, and that we are hoping to move forward with finding more sustained funding and endowments, both institutional as well as private money.
And then finally, what lessons from the program could be applicable to other institutions that want to address these issues of recruitment and retention? What can you share?
I think something that we have repeatedly realized is that it is so important when you're creating programming and opportunities that you really understand the communities that you are doing this for, and you have to do it with them. And so that has been the great advantage, is that the decades of work that has gone into working and building trusting relationships in our teacher communities, our high school communities and partners, having that is the first step. And them coming back to us with, here are the needs we have. Can you help us figure out ways around them? To co-design solutions, like to have teacher partners on board with us when we are designing programs like this. Some of our teacher partners actually come on in the summer to help us run the programs. They give us feedback. They're watching it from a very experienced lens of folks who've worked with high school students for long periods of time and really can tell us what goes well with programming and what can be done better. So I think what I would recommend to institutions that are looking to do this, it doesn't happen in a moment. You have to put in the groundwork. You have to really establish trusting relationships with communities, and then having a buy-in from the entire institution at large in terms of labs as well as staff, as well as faculty, for people to know that this is important and that they want to contribute to this in some way. There's a dimension of our program where we actually have career panels and we have networking, speed networking with folks from different disciplines. To get them excited to want to commit an afternoon to do this requires reaching out to the community and letting them know what's going on and why this is important. So I think really garnering support, both funds-wise, but also energy, enthusiasm, and experience-wise, is really critically important. And then to have networks that will continue to grow and, return year after year. So creating a support base for those kinds of events where people can come together and learn from each other is also very important.
Thank you, Dr. Masilamani.